Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize that the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow your wish into a longing, and the longing into an intention. And that intention may be even into a determination if you feel ready. Then turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratma Mandala Kamiyatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings awaken to their true nature for the benefit of every single other. All right. I'm going to pause the recording for the thing. All right. Thank you. Last class, we learned about the importance of having a teacher. We call that teacher Lama. It means high one, meaning right above us, what we aspire to become, or even like the doorway to those ultimately high, or a manifestation of those ultimately high. And we learned that there are certain qualities that for this tradition we look for in that being who we are going to call the Lama. And those qualities do not require them to be Tibetan. Those qualities do not require them to wear robes. Those qualities, right, are beyond those two characteristics. And we learned that to be able to see those qualities in another, even though we think those qualities are in the other, from the other, so that we can see them, you know where it's really coming from. Our own seeds reflecting our own past goodness behavior grown bigger so that we can see someone that we aspire to become like. And how they see themselves, right? We don't know particularly. And if they see themselves as a Lama, that's their own seeds. If they don't see themselves as a Lama, that's their own seeds. And neither one needs to impact the truth of our seeds. And then we would say, so what kind of seeds did I make in order to see someone with those high qualities? And what kind of karmas did they make to see themselves with those high qualities if they see those high qualities? You know, and the point of your meditation practice was just to think about that. Because we're so sure that you go looking for a Lama because there's somebody out there with those qualities. And when I go looking for them, I'm going to find them. Technically, if you're looking for a Lama means, right, you're just waiting for your seeds to ripen. You don't have to go anywhere. Right? You do what you need to do to get your seeds to ripen and they'll show up. Maybe they show up as a plane ticket to India. I don't know. But you don't really have to go anywhere. So, you know, how we've treated others in the past, how we've treated others in respect to when we saw them as our teachers, how we saw ourselves respond when someone asked us for something, right? All of those are pieces of the puzzle that help us understand how to plant and cultivate the seeds to be able to create and then sustain having such a being as a personal guide in our lives, right? It comes from us and our own seeds planted in the past and our seeds that we're continuing to plant, especially now that we know about it. Okay. So, like, why did we need to know about the teacher? Because we went on to say, they're going to teach you, take the essence of your life. Oh, what do you mean by that? And we ended up with studying the four powers, because from what they taught us about getting the essence of our life, we realized, oh my gosh, I could still have the kind of mental imprints latent in me that any one of which could push me to one of those lower realms. And that would be disastrous in terms of my continued ability to learn and practice the path. And so we had the thought, it's like, how do I clean those out? How do I reduce that possibility of having a lower rebirth now that I know, right? And that I know better the really icky karmas that I've made, even just from this past life that's been reasonably good. Still, once I understand the details of karma, it's like, oh yeah, and then when I look around my world and see, what's ripening in the world around us, any unpleasantness is a result of my own past selfishness. Anybody willing to hurt anybody else for their own gain is my own past doing so. Right? If I see a samsaric world around me, I made that, right? And I have the seeds that could push this mind into a realm where there was nothing but that kind of behavior coming at me. So we really don't apply ourselves so well to our purification until we have a really, really strong component of refuge. So we're like going backwards. We got to the four powers having gathered our refuge. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I go back and look at my refuge again. And we do that. We're supposed to be looking at our refuge 6 times a day, in fact, 3 during the day and 3 at night, to see if we really are choosing our behavior according to what we now know and what we aspire or say we aspire to become. So we took refuge because we had found those 2 components, the fear and faith, the fear of a lesser realm rebirth that was strong enough for us to go, oh man, like it was our belief that it could happen got strong enough that it was like, who and what can help me? And we found something that made logical sense and made heartfelt sense that, oh, okay, when I learned about what these 3 jewels are really, that, right, I can relate to that. I can believe in that. So these 2 components of fear and faith that we learned long time ago, we're learning deeper, understanding it deeper. And they say that if we really aren't afraid of the lower rebirth, then our refuge really isn't refuge, right? It's refuge in words, it's refuge in prayer, but it isn't really, pardon my French, holy shit, I've got to do something, right? If our belief in the lower realms was that. And, I have to admit, it's like, it's the fear of the lower realms is not, lit under my fanny somehow. And we learn later, it's like once our understanding of karma and emptiness reaches a certain level, even before direct perception, our behavior change that will go along with that will make it such that we will close the door to lesser rebirth. And, maybe there have been lifetimes before in this one where I had already reached that, and now my complacency about it, right, is getting in the way of practice. It happens commonly that we think, oh, I've reached that. All right, I've passed that rung in the ladder, so I leave it behind. When really we're wanting to take each rung with us and still use it because they will deepen at each next level. So what are we afraid of? The scriptures say birth in a lower realm. And technically, we're not even first level capacity Buddhists if we don't have this honest egads. Okay? If my death is only 4 minutes away, then so is a hell realm or a hungry ghost realm or an animal realm for me. And on a higher level, so could be a form realm or formless realm if my meditations were that good. No, none of which I want. So, we should from time to time revisit our belief. Do I really believe that I have any seed in my mind that if it's the projecting karma at the moment of death could send me into a perception of a being where there's nothing but cruelty and hatred coming at me? Like, do I have seeds in my mind from having responded with hatred, anger, cruelty, thinking I'd get something out of harming somebody else? And when we compare it to a hell realm, it's like, oh my gosh, no, I don't have any seeds like that. But seeds grow, remember? And, do we see cruelty around in our world? Gosh, I see a lot of it just in the advertisements for the movies that are available, right? I don't see the movies, but right in my world, I ripen a world where people go for entertainment in movies that people are being cruel to each other, emotionally cruel, physically cruel, and it's just like, well, then I do have those seeds. And at the moment of death, well, let me get there. So any seeds of hatred, cruelty, anger, willingness to do this harsh, rough harming of another to prevent being harmed or to get what we want, if any one of those seeds ripens at the moment of death, there'll be seeds similar to it that fill it in as to experiencing all those things coming at me constantly with no break. Hell realm. Hungry ghost realm. Do I have any seeds in my mind from where the things I needed, the things I wanted were more important to get than the things other people wanted? Yes, I know other people need things, want things. I'll help them do it. But admittedly, my need is first on my mind because I directly experience it. I only see what the other needs like secondhand. And if any of those seeds is the projecting karma at the end of this life, that karma with the fill it in karmas following hot on its heels will ripen this one as one who, no matter where they look, wherever they try, can get anything that satisfies them. A world where nothing's available. Nothing can satisfy. Hungry ghost realm. One small seed, if it's the one that pops. will color our whole world like that. And then animal realm world, the animal quality of mind is one of a constant alert, right? Eat or be eaten. So a constant state of, I don't know, we would interpret it as fear, but it's like this constant alert to not get eaten, and the constant alert to, eat, find something to eat. And that state of mind is the automatic pilot, and they don't have the capacity to think outside the box. They don't have the capacity to consider, is the way I'm going about getting my food the right way to do it? It's really, really rare for an animal mind to have this different idea. We can teach an animal how to behave differently. And that's probably really, really great animal seeds, to be an animal that gets taught. But have you ever had a pet that you tried to teach? We had a really, really smart little Labrador puppy. She was so smart. She would learn things like this. But as soon as we left her alone, with our other dog, oh man, she just reversed. She was a terror on wheels when she was alone with the other dog. Who knows what she would have been alone by herself, probably worse. And it's like, and as soon as we got home, she was on her best behavior. But you couldn't trust her, see? Because she really wasn't being retrained. All she was trained to do was behave when we were around. Didn't have the capacity to go, well, I'll be a good dog all the time, which our other dog did, right? She was good all the time. So if we have those kinds of seeds of automatic pilot or causing somebody else dull, dumb state of mind, I'm sorry all the times I bored you with the Dharma, and one of those seeds pops, it fills in as this quality of mind that's on automatic pilot. And the automatic pilot is eat or get eaten. Right? And suffer all the cruelty that goes with animal world that comes from other seeds as well. It's not like there's a animal body waiting for your mind to get stuffed into it. It's not like there's a craving spirit, costume that you're pushed into. The mind as we know it, like me, Sarani personality mind, even when I say, I know my mind goes on to the next life, I'm thinking of my mind as this mind as the intellect, the thinker thinking. And that intellect actually is dependent upon the physical body, what we call the brain function. Help is part of the karmic seeds that allows us to organize information and think things through. And when the body dies, that brain function ceases. So the way I've used it to relate to myself is going to break down. Even before I'm technically dead, it's breaking down such that I can't have a thought all the way through, let alone be saying, oh, I hope to go to hell realm to help every living being. If when the brain can't do that, can't sustain that, we can't sustain it either. Can we sustain the feeling, the idea, the premise? Yes, if we're well trained enough. But are we having that feeling, bodhicitta feeling in our heart when somebody's yelling at us? When we're miserable and too hot and feeling like we're going to pass out? Are we thinking, oh, bodhicitta, bodhicitta? I don't know about you, but I'm not. I'm like worried, am I going to pass out in front of everybody or can I get home before I do it? Right? We're on such automatic pilot even as humans that the likelihood of being able to hold bodhicitta in my mind when we're going through the breakdown that's called dying, that the likelihood of being able to have any kind of control over what seed is projecting karma is really remote. Is it possible? Yes. Right? With training, with high level mindfulness, with a lot of purification practice, so that we lessen the number of negative seeds that could ripen as a projecting karma to a lower realm, and increase the number of seeds of growing wisdom, even if before direct perception, such that whatever seed does become the projecting karma, it's like, all right, we're going to be cool because it's going to be human life, probably even human life that's going to meet the Dharma reasonably soon. Because we've used this life to set that up, done our purification practices, gathering our goodness. So even the very first capacity Buddhist practitioner, they have this strong refuge, fear and faith, which means they had to have renunciation at some level. Then they meet a teacher, then they meet what it is to have refuge. And within that, they meet their own impermanence. And it occurs to them, what do I do with all these ugly seeds? And they learn the powers of purification so that they can set themselves up for being assured that at the end of that life, no lower rebirth will happen. Then they say, the way they word it, it sounds like no lower rebirth forever after that. And I'm not so sure of that, but if at least you get another human life next life, hopefully you're going to meet the Dharma again, and then you work on it again. And in that way, you can say, well, yes, I've closed the door forever because I'm going to keep reclosing the door every lifetime. But that's their capacity, meaning like that's their focus. It's so strong, their fear of going to a lesser rebirth, that it's like, this is my whole path, is get to that place where I close that door. Now, my guess is when you get to that place, you're not going to stop there and go, okay, fine, right? I'll just live out the rest of my, 97 years because I've closed the lesser door. It's like, whoa, if you can do that in your first 3 years, see what else we can do. Yeah. But the point is, we're not a second level Buddhist until we're a first level Buddhist. No, we really, really do believe that we're in a race against time to clean out our karmas and gather enough goodness, kindness to make the seed pot be enough kindness seeds, avoiding harming other seeds, that we don't have anything to worry about. So what those practitioners do is work really, really, really hard at avoiding harming others in gross and subtle ways. And they do their purification practices, right, to clean out. If we're using our understanding of karma and emptiness to make a better this life, then technically we're not even at the first capacity Buddhist level. We can use ancient wisdom to get a better samsaric life, but then we lose it. And who knows what we get later. So we're studying ACI, presumably because we already have that wisdom. Yes, we could all be studying the wisdom so that our business is more successful. And how wonderful that would be when it works. But we're taking it deeper. We're looking at living now to affect that moment when the awareness, not the intellect, but the awareness is making this shift from this one to the next one. And how we want to set ourselves up for that to be a next human life. Thank you very much. Then at some point, the goodness that we create by the harmlessness we're doing in order to close that door grows in us, and our capacity grows, and we come to recognize, or we reach the level where the teacher points out, look, you can take your understanding and use it such that you can stop all of your suffering forever, like all of your mental afflictions forever, which is a little tricky because it's like, is suffering synonymous with mental affliction? I would argue yes. But is pain synonymous with mental affliction? I would argue no. Right? Can you experience something that we would call unpleasant and not misunderstand it, so that in fact you don't get mentally afflicted about it? Can you imagine doing that? Hopefully we can imagine it, because technically reaching nirvana is like that. A level of nirvana where, although you have affected your mental pool of seeds such that a mental affliction cannot arise, those seeds still have in them the ripening of things that are unpleasant. Do you remember King of Kalinka's story? That poor guy, he's getting all cut up. It hurt, but he didn't get mentally afflicted about it. Did he feel the pain? Yes, of course. Did he suffer from it? That's the question. Okay. So at nirvana level, because of your careful practice of karma and its correlations, and so our behavior choices get even more carefully avoiding harming others grossly and subtly, even more than what we did at our first capacity level. Now we're doing it in order to burn off and not replant the seeds of misunderstanding that force us to suffer from unpleasant things, that force us to suffer from things that wear out, and force us to suffer from the pervasive suffering, which is, right, that body's going to wear out someday. So even as we reach nirvana, the end of all mental afflictions forever due to our individual analysis, meaning seeing emptiness directly, coming to know the 4 Arya truths, and then applying ourselves to live according to it, we can still have unpleasant things happen, but when we've reached that state, our awareness will not get afflicted. Not just by willpower, but incapable of getting afflicted. Second level Buddhist then takes this deep fear and faith, finds their refuge, right? Buddha jewel, Sangha jewel, Buddha jewel, Dharma jewel, Sangha jewel, meaning emptiness and karma, and those who have taught it and those who demonstrate it. And we learn to live by it. And we close the door to lesser rebirth, and we set ourselves on the path to the end of all mental afflictions, nirvana. Second capacity practitioner, I want to end all my mental afflictions forever, not just close the door. Yes, close the door, but not only that. It's called the paths shared, steps shared. Then we get the great capacity, which the great capacity practitioner, as we know, has recognized these two possibilities, closing the door, reaching nirvana, and we aspire to them, and we're working on reaching them. And anywhere along the way, it occurs to us, oh my gosh, everybody's in the same boat. And when we turn our renunciation on others and determine, wow, I'm gonna do this for myself so that I can help others do it too. And I see that really the way I reach my own nirvana, at least, is still by way of how I help others reach it, let alone Buddhahood. So our renunciation turned on others becomes our bodhicitta and makes us the third level capacity, who practices the steps shared with the first level capacity, second level capacity. That's what makes them third level capacity, is because they're still doing those same practices, avoiding harming, really carefully living according to karma and emptiness, avoiding the 10 non-virtues, training in the 10 virtues. And now we're doing it with this huger capacity, which is I'm doing this so that I really can help others, so that I really can stop harming, and I really can help in that ultimate way, because all those worldly ways I try, they just fall short, right? Not that I don't do them. Of course I try. But we can try to help somebody, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. And even when it does work, they just go on to get upset by something else. And then we do it again. And that's fine. We'll do it until, right? Until there's no more upset anywhere in the world. Because that's how we transform ourselves, is by way of what we see ourselves thinking, saying, and doing to others. So at any of these capacities, those practitioners are already practicing the ethical way of life. They are practicing concentration, and they are practicing wisdom, learning about one's own nature and how we don't exist in the way we think, and how we do actually exist in a way different than what we thought. Each of those level of practitioners are learning that at a certain level. So it takes all three capacities, practices from all three capacities, in order to even reach the first of the 5 paths for any capacity practitioner. So it's like, there's the 5 paths for the one whose 5th path goal is closing the door to lesser rebirth. They have a path of accumulation. They have a path of preparation. They have a path of seeing. They have a path of habituation. They have a attainment. Right? It's different than the one who's going to nirvana. They have those 5 also. Different things are happening than highest capacity practitioner. We have the 5 paths as we know them. And it's like our mind goes, oh, those are the real paths. But wait, if you were the 1st level practitioner and that's like what you believe was the highest capacity for any human, you'd be thinking, oh, those other guys, I don't know what they're thinking, but they're going overboard. All we need to do is this. And then we reach a point where it's like we get in the middle. It's like, come on, you lower capacities, come up with us. Do you see? So all of it, it's by way of what seeds are ripening from us at any given time for where we are, our capacity, and where we see others are. And I don't know about you, but mostly what I see in my world is people on no capacity at all. Right? Humans in a human life trying to get happiness and doing all the wrong things to get the very happiness that they want. And so, frustrated. So we know the 5 paths. Path of accumulation. How do we get on the path of accumulation? Our renunciation turns on. On some level, we've just gotten sick of all the effort to get happy, and it just doesn't work. If we get a little happy, it doesn't last. If it does, we still die and lose it. Mostly, we're disappointed in some way. So path of accumulation is accumulating enough disgust with the best samsara's got, which is human life, that we're willing to hear how to stop it, and we're willing to say, okay, I'm willing to change something about me to stop this. Right? Our renunciation really isn't strong until we're able to say, yeah, okay, I need to change in order to change this. I'm willing to, right? We resist what really changing ourselves. So renunciation is this strong. Nothing, there's no happiness here. Path of preparation comes next. Preparing to see emptiness directly, which we know this is studying, class time, contemplating, meditating, learning about karma, learning about emptiness, learning how the 2 of them married create and destroy, how dependent origination works, what's meant by profound dependence, like all of that intellectual learning. Many, many, many hours of intellectual cogitation, and then efforts to meditate on it, where you use the intellectual, clear thinking, reasoning to come to a conclusion and then park on that conclusion. Like let the conclusion percolate. And then the mind kicks out and you do it again. And again and again and again. All of that increases our ability to be more mindful such that we can be choosing our behavioral interactions with others more conscientiously, more guided by what to avoid and what to take up instructions, so that we can plant seeds of seeds for Buddhahood, nirvana, or at least another human life. And fewer seeds for hell realm, hungry ghost, animal realm. Yeah, and hopefully avoiding planting seeds for form or formless realm, or even pleasure being realm, so that we're really zeroing in on choosing our behaviors very carefully. Takes mindfulness, and it takes knowledge, right? The knowledge of the karmic correlations. So all of that, purifying and doing goodness, all of it is about growing the goodness to get the direct perception of emptiness to ripen in one of those meditation sessions. Like the first goal is to gather the goodness for that. Each of the three capacities have the experience, the path of seeing. They have a direct experience of emptiness. And there later courses we go through it. It's like, do they see the same emptiness? The emptiness is emptiness. There isn't partial emptiness, but the emptiness experience that they have doesn't affect their mind in the same way as it affects the mind of someone who's on greater capacity. And you have to think, well, why would that be? Until we're understanding that that experience is also projections happening and nothing but. There isn't anything self-existent about this experience, direct perception of emptiness, that changes your mind in a certain way. It does change your mind, absolutely. But how it changes your mind is influenced by how you expected it to change your mind going into it. So we'll learn lower capacity believes that their sole job is to close that door to lesser rebirth. And so they're understanding the no self nature of their own being in a certain way, that when they come out of the direct perception of emptiness, they go, now I see exactly how that all works. Now I know my door is closed. A second level comes out of the experience, how they process the experience. Now I know what I need to do to reach nirvana. Mahayana comes out of it. Now I know what I need to do to reach Buddhahood. Because we went into it with those goals. So why am I talking about that? Path of seeing is prepared for in our path of preparation, which we're on the path of preparation for a Mahayanas. So we're being trained for a Mahayana path of seeing, but it's not a different path of seeing, it's a different outcome after the path of seeing because of what we brought with us into it, our seeds. So path of seeing is perceiving emptiness directly. 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then coming out and having those experiences throughout the next 18 to 24 hours, from which you know things that you knew of, maybe even were pretty expert in intellectually, but hadn't actually experienced directly, like the getting on the bike and finally riding. And we're on our path of habituation, meaning getting used to living according to what we now know is true, that we believed was true. And so we were already trying to live according to it. And now that we see the truth of what we believed that was true, meaning we understand it differently. Now, that state of mind, we're doing the same deeds, but with this more direct understanding state of mind to plant the seeds to take us closed door to lesser rebirth, to the place of no mental afflictions ever again, and to the place of clearing out all the obstacles to omniscience, so Buddhahood. Path of no more learning. For each of those practitioner levels, their path of habituation is about getting used to living according to what they now know is true. First level, avoid harming others like the plague. Second, avoid harming others and intentionally burn off your mental afflictions. Plant the opposite. Highest practitioner, do all of that with the intention to reach total Buddhahood for the sake of everybody's total Buddhahood. Okay. Let's take our break. Here's one. Here's two. I'll take it. So what determines the shift from first and second level to third level practitioner is our bodhicitta. That recognition of the power of the process of cleaning, of understanding karma and how to purify what's there already and how to create new by way of avoiding harming others and helping others. We recognize that, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can't create. That not only can I stop recreating a suffering world for myself, but I can stop recreating a suffering world for everybody. And to do that, I need to want to stop the suffering world for everybody. And to do that, I will need to help them stop their own suffering. Right? I can reach a place where I can see beings not as suffering beings. But when I reach that place, I will also see that they see themselves as suffering beings. And because we know their emptiness and their karma, we'll know what they need to give up and what they need to take up in order for them to stop seeing themselves as suffering beings. So to become one who can help the others, we need to try to help the others, but we can't actually help the others until we have that omniscience that's born of the compassion that we use to motivate ourselves to try to help them. So you see this upward spiral developing. They call bodhicitta the alchemical elixir through which we transform. Alchemy, right, is that you can mix certain ordinary substances in such a way that you can then use those substances onto another substance and transform that substance from something ordinary to something totally valuable. And they say that Nagarjuna got really good at that he could transform something that was made of steel into gold. And then he went and, bought food and supplies in a time when the monastics were starving. And he sustained them, right, with his alchemy. And then he got in big trouble because it's like, wait, you're cheating people. And, he said, no, I really made it into gold. And they said, no, you didn't, right? It's really steel. And it's like, what was it really? Anyway, he gets in trouble, he gets kicked out. And, it's a long story after that. But our bodhicitta is this alchemical elixir. And what is it, the ordinary stuff that we are going to use the alchemical elixir to transform into something beyond valuable? Our me, okay? Our belief in self-existence, which is our worst quality. We will use the alchemical elixir of bodhicitta to transform that ignorance into wisdom by way of our loving compassion, coloring, guiding, directing our choice of behaviors so that we further avoid harming others and try to be kind. And then we do both of those, but motivated from this higher capacity. But like, how does it do that? It's just a thought in our mind. I want to be a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Like, how can that be so powerful an elixir that it can transform everything from samsaric to paradise for everybody? And Geshe-la said, I'll give you a clue. So the clue is, if you think of doing some deed in order to get some happiness for yourself, you're even doing a goodness deed to get happiness for yourself. You are doing those deeds motivated for the benefit of one person, you. But now think of all the people that live in your city, however many there are. Tucson, there's like 1 million people in our valley now. And like, really make it personal. There are a whole bunch that are in their cars right now. There are a whole bunch that are at restaurants. There are some that work nights and they've just gone on the 7 p.m. shift. There are some, right? Like all the different things that we know just humans are doing right now in your town. How many? How many things are there doing? How many beings are there? And we know that everything that they are doing for their own and their loved ones' happiness is things that, in fact, are leading to their own suffering and making the causes for more suffering. No matter how good a time they're having, no matter how kind they're being, if we're still seeing them as human, ordinary human, they're just perpetuating the cycle. So now, when we think of all those beings, and we think of how they're mistaking thinking they can get happiness by way of doing something worldly, our heart goes, oh, it's just so broken. I wish that I could say something or do something or, that could just get them to wake up. That feeling in our heart. It's like I came to know something different. I can't somehow, if I could do it, like I'm just thick as a brick, then all you others who are smarter than me, what can I say? What can I do? And there's only one me. There's a million others in Tucson area. I can't get to all of them, but I can think of them and I can care about them. And I can care that they're samsarically trying to get happy and just hurting themselves. And so as I do anything that I do, I can have that care about them and their ultimate happiness in mind as I do anything, as I brush my teeth, right? As I do whatever I do for my own efforts on my path, I think I'm doing it for their benefit because they don't seem to have the capacity even for first capacity percent, from my view. I don't really know, but it looks that way. So to have that thought in my mind, like everything I'm doing, I know I'm still doing on behalf of myself, but I'm adding the intellectual and heartfelt sense that really I'm doing it on behalf of all those others that I don't yet have the capacity to reach out to. In that way, I will sooner or later reach my own state of heart where I can reach out to them. I can know exactly what they need to take up and give up. Okay? By caring about them now in this ultimate way, I influence how many seeds do I plant when I'm thinking about what I'm doing is to benefit a million people versus to benefit just one. Same seed, but now on behalf of a million. Do you see? The seed is stronger just by thinking about them when I do it. Well, then what about all the animals? And then what about those unseen beings? Hell beings, hungry ghosts, jealous gods. When we add all of those, how many beings are we doing our kindness deed for? It grows, it becomes, right, infinite. All. We use the word all sentient beings, not leaving a single one out, not even that jerk Uncle Joe, that everybody dislikes, like especially that jerk Uncle Joe that everybody dislikes. I'm doing it for him and everybody who dislikes them, right? The number is so big. We've heard about it before. And then the goal for ourselves is equally big. Omniscience, ultimate love, ultimate compassion. We really can't wrap our puny intellects around what we're wishing for. But when we get those two bigs happening in our mind as we feed a little bird a piece of seed, that series of seeds from those series of moments includes the power of that high intention and the huge number of beings. Same deed, alchemically elixired into the cause for Buddhahood, the power of bodhicitta. So, like, how on our mind does it need to be for it to plant that seed as a seed for my Buddhahood? Like 50% of the time? 95% of the time? 2%? How much? And you know what the answer is going to be. the more the better, right? As much as it takes to see yourself transformed, that's how much it takes. So, more is better. But don't then go, well, I never do it even 50% of the time. I do it after the fact. Like half an hour later, oh, I did my dishes with bodhicitta. But during doing the dishes, just getting the dishes done, automatic pilot, right? Remembering, oh, bodhicitta, that's still better than it not occurring to us at all. So we're trying to train ourselves to have bodhicitta in mind as we're doing our deed. And then even as we're choosing the deed we're going to do. Boss yelling at you. I want to yell back. I'm not going to yell back. While I'm waiting to not yell back, I'm trying to remember, what did I mean by bodhicitta? And then choose. Maybe you choose to yell back. Maybe that really is the right thing to do. But you'll be doing it from bodhicitta, not from anger, not from self-defense, and it'll be different. I'm not saying give yourself permission to yell back. I'm saying give yourself bodhicitta, and bodhicitta will help you to know what's the highest thing you can do in the moment. It's still going to be how to help them best. Bodhicitta. All right. When we're training our minds in bodhicitta, then we carry that bodhicitta mind with us into our meditation practice. And that goodness, for the benefit of all sentient beings, makes our seed planting in our meditation practice be causes for our Buddhahood. And all of that alchemically increased power of goodness moves us closer and closer to our path of seeing, reaching that direct perception of emptiness someday. Because that will be a ripening of powerful good karma. It takes goodness to ripen that experience. It takes goodness to get into a deep enough state of meditation regularly enough that we can sustain the level necessary to see emptiness directly. All of that will ripen out of our seeds of goodness, right? It's a good result. So it can only come out of kindness seeds. Kindness colored with bodhicitta increases the power of those kindness seeds. We all do kindness seeds. Add the bodhicitta component, and those easy, automatic kindness seeds become causes for Buddhahood instead of just perpetuating niceness of samsara that wears out. Give yourself credit. Right? Use those already developed kindnesses to grow them and multiply them. I remember getting so focused on my mental afflictions that I forgot, that I am polite. I am helpful. I do care about people. I watch carefully to see that I can set an inspiring example. Instead of deciding, oh, that's just automatic pilot, I can use that intentionally with bodhicitta to grow it bigger. Otherwise, we're using it up, right? Using up our kindness. And then you get old and cranky, and it happens. So we're using this understanding in both directions to burn off our mental afflictions and not plant them, and to gather greater goodness, right? Adding to what we already have. So bodhicitta has those two factors. I am focusing on another being's needs. The one that I'm focused on represents all beings. And I'm doing what I'm doing for them worldly in order for them to someday get an ultimate benefit. Right? So when we say all those worldly things we try fall short, it's not the things we do, it's our expectation and belief about them that makes them be what falls short. They can be the seeds planted that when those seeds ripen as that person's end of suffering. Is it going to happen in the next moment after you give them the flowers? Not likely, unless you're already Buddha. But have you planted the seeds such that will be the result when that seed ripens? Yes. So once you get those seeds in there, right, then we grow them with rejoicing. We add to them with more kindnesses done with bodhicitta in mind. And pretty quickly, we get on the upward cycle part of our path, where we really are more swiftly burning off negativities, planting goodness, and doing both with this alchemical elixir of doing it for the benefit of the other that we're interacting with them representing all. First factor in bodhicitta. Second factor is, and I'm doing that like that so that I can plant the seeds in my mind for me to see myself as fully enlightened, meaning a being made of love, compassion, wisdom, omniscient, emanating, right? Exactly what other beings need at any given moment. No, but I'm just giving my friend some flowers. Right. In order to bring them to ultimate freedom, and they represent everybody. And in order for me to become a being who can give them ultimate happiness as I give them flowers someday. Do you see? It takes both sides of that. Their benefit and my benefit. And I know for a long time I resisted the and my benefit side. You know, it's like, wait a minute, aren't I supposed to get rid of my selfishness? And it's really not that we're getting rid of selfishness. It's that we're going to use it to transform. If we get rid of it, like, there's nothing there to transform. So at this highest level, we're taking our selfishness, self-existent me and what I want, my own happiness, and using it to become a being that becomes the happiness for everybody. How else are we going to do that if we don't have a self to transform? All right, so two parts. So in order to grow the goodness, that ripened as our interest, our arising of the third capacity practitioner, Mahayana, we had figured out how to avoid harming others, and then in powerful ways to be kind, to be helpful. And whether we learned it from the Lama or not, whether we learned it as Mahayanis or not, we would eventually even figure out for ourselves that I'd be sharing things that I have with others. And I'd be really carefully living an ethical life. And somehow we even get to the point where it's like all those unpleasant situations that I would have reacted harshly, badly to avoid for myself. I realized I don't need to react badly in those unpleasant circumstances. And in fact, I can use them to burn off tremendous number of seeds of selfishness. If I can sit there, right, without harming, right, me or the other, and burn it off and act with kindness, right? What I'm trying to describe as patience practice. And then we'll even get to a point where we recognize that whether we're having a pleasant experience or an unpleasant experience, it's all simply an opportunity to burn off past samsarically made seeds and plant new seeds with bodhicitta. Not even necessarily different behavior, but with this higher state of heart when I'm doing it. And it's like, okay, anything that's going on, let's just do this, right? Joyous effort, they call it. Having a good time, doing our practices. So we're recognizing those as the 6 perfections that are what the path of habituation looks like for a Mahayanas. It's not that the giving, moral discipline, not getting angry, having fun, meditating, and growing our wisdom are unique to the Mahayanas. It's what we are bringing to those activities, the bodhicitta that we are bringing to those activities that makes those activities become the perfectionizers. Okay? We were doing them before. Past lifetimes, earlier this lifetime, that's how we gather the goodness to be on a path at all, to be making progress in the path. Now, as our bodhicitta grows, we turn it on as we do those same deeds. And now those deeds are planting seeds for, if we are doing that on our path of preparation, those seeds are being planted going towards our direct perception of emptiness, our path of seeing. And then we come out of the path of seeing and we go, oh, great. Now I can really turn my bodhicitta on. Because in fact, you can't ever turn it off anymore once you've seen emptiness directly with bodhicitta in your heart. And now you're doing your 6 perfections that you're already pretty good at. And you're doing them with the mind imbued with bodhicitta. So you are planting seeds that will take you all the way to your Buddhahood. By way of behaviors you've already trained yourself in. Do you see? So don't wait to be working on your 6 perfections until you've seen emptiness directly, right? Work on them now. We already are, of course. So then those first 4 perfections are growing the goodness to help our 5th and 6th perfections become perfectionizers. Our meditative concentration and our growing wisdom. So Shine and Luktong, grow out of the goodness that we're creating by avoiding harming others and being kind. And they grow bigger, faster, better as we avoid harming others and be kind to others, colored with the mind of bodhicitta, even intellectual bodhicitta, let alone the heartfelt bodhicitta. Where are they? Just remind us. Shine and Laktong is Tibetan for shamatha and vipassana, the single-pointed concentration meditation level from which we can see emptiness directly, and the emptiness directly experience. Perfection number 5, meditative concentration, right? Learning to reach shamatha. And perfection number 6, the direct perception of emptiness, training intellectually in it until we do bring on the full experience. And then we continue to do our perfections, as I said. So as this upward spiral progresses, and we're on our path of preparation as a third capacity practitioner, we are already working with our 6 perfections, and we are studying and contemplating and growing the goodness of the 6 perfections in order to deepen our concentration, in order to deepen our intellectual understanding of emptiness, in order to fine-tune our bodhicitta that we have in mind as we do our deeds. That goodness grows into, oh my gosh, next thing you know, you're coming out of your direct perception of emptiness. And there's this period of time where you're experiencing different things directly, still in meditation, and then off cushion time that come to be known as the Pakpe Denpashi, right? The 4 Arya truths, the 4 things that a new Arya now knows are true. Like they finally got onto the bicycle in these 4 different arenas. And then they got off the bicycle and go, oh, now I know what that was. Now I understand what they were teaching me. I really didn't get it before, right? Intellectually, we understand the 4 Arya truths. But when we experience them directly, it'll be eye-opening, they say. So these 4, they're taught intellectually in a certain order. And then in terms of how they are experienced, they come in a different order when you're coming out of your direct perception of emptiness and experiencing them. And then when you go back and think about how life has been colored by those 4 and we really didn't know it, we see how that the order isn't so important because it's really like they're circular, you know, and you can step into looking at them at any place along the way. You can't really say there's a first, a second, a third, and a fourth, but they come to you in these separate ways. So we've learned the intellectual way of studying them, the truth of suffering, Dunya Dempa, the truth of the cause of suffering, Kunjung Dempa, the truth of the cessation of suffering, Gokden, and the truth of the path to the end of suffering, Lamden. But the way they happen is that there's the realization of the cause of suffering, not meaning first there is a cause, but meaning you realize all is suffering and all suffering has a cause. And that the ramification is there's no suffering other than the one that's the result of the cause. So you stop the cause, you can't have the result. But when you're trying to teach it, you teach it first by demonstrating that suffering is true. The truth of suffering is that in order to even have the direct perception of emptiness, to grow the goodness that we need to do, we need to recognize that there's nothing in our experience that can bring us anything but suffering, so that we're willing enough to change our behavior enough, to grow the goodness enough, to have this experience of ultimate reality, right? It's the bigness of all of that that's important. So this truth of the fact of suffering is really what it's talking about. And like, honestly, if you look in your heart, are we still thinking that there is something in our human life that can be pleasurable? And it's like, honestly, if we think, no, there's nothing pleasurable in this whole life, that's depression. Probably even clinical depression. Like, I think I'm on the verge. It's just so clear to me. Every move is painful, literally, physically. And then every thought, it's like it's never, right? And then it just seems to be getting harder and worser. And I don't want to leave people like, yeah, become a really good Buddhist and need antidepressant medications just to do your practice. Not like that. But do we believe, no, there is finally something that I can do. I can become kind enough. I can have enough wisdom in my heart that I can make some goodness that will bring some happiness to somebody in this lifetime. Like, technically, we are mistaken. Can we bring happiness to somebody? Yeah, we can see it happen. But aren't they going to die eventually anyway? Aren't we going to die eventually anyway? And then, anything could happen unless we've reached the level of close the door. But even still, so we get another human rebirth. There's no suffering. We're all alone, right? High after low, right? That we still have those 6 sufferings as a human. It's like, come on, we've got to stop this whole process. But until we recognize the truth of suffering, which means everything we experience as ignorant humans is suffering now, either obvious, suffering of change, or pervasive. It was caused by suffering, and it will be the cause of future suffering. So any moment of experience is revealing 3 sufferings. The one that caused it, and the one it's contributing to in the future. Truth of the cause of suffering. Yeah, we won't really get it until we experience it directly. They call it two divisions of the truth of suffering: the impure vessel in which we live and its impure contents, meaning this world that we live in is the truth of suffering. There's nothing in it that isn't suffering now, caused by suffering, and a cause for future suffering. And its impure contents means all the beings who live in this world. The stuff is the world. The beings are the contents of it. Every one of those beings is a suffering being made of those three sufferings. Suffering in the moment, the sufferings that made the cause, and the sufferings that those sufferings are creating for the future. Ow. The truth of the fact of suffering, not it's true there is suffering. Every moment is from suffering, suffering now creating more. All right. Dung Jung Dempa, the truth of the cause of suffering. It has two parts. Lei and Yomongpa. Why didn't I write those down? The truth of the cause of suffering. What's the cause of suffering? Karma. What's karma? Movement of the mind and what it motivates. What does it motivate? What I say and do. So one of the causes of suffering is karma, our actions. And nyomong pa, nyomong we know is mental afflictions. Nyomong pa means mentally afflicted things, meaning the things that we get mentally afflicted about. So the cause of suffering isn't the mental affliction itself. It's the things that the mental affliction arise because of is the cause, right? The cause of the mental affliction is in the cause of suffering because the mental affliction is the suffering. And then, of course, the cause of that cause is karma that we made and are making, right? It's ripening and plantings are happening so seamlessly that we're perpetuating these causes of suffering as long as we're continuing to allow that process to go on unaware or unshifted, unresponded differently to. I don't know if that was English. So one of your realizations is this deep, direct experience of how cause, result, cause, result, cause, result, cause, result is this continuous and ubiquitous happening. And the cause and the result are all the truth of suffering. And that process is the cause. And we realize Gokten, right? The truth of the end of suffering. Now we realize that because we just experienced it for 20 minutes. We didn't know it was 20 minutes till we came out of it. And we didn't really know it was that until we came out of it either. Because in it, there's no distinction, subject-object interaction between, you can't think, oh, wow, I'm free of suffering right now, because that's subject-object, right? It's not your, Geshe-la says, communing with ultimate reality. But even that gives my mind the wrong connotation. There just is. You don't disappear, right? You're not, things aren't all annihilated. Can't describe until you come out. And then it's like, ooh, right? And you still don't have words for it. apparently. So you already have this gokten, this realization of the end of suffering. But then you understand more viscerally, intellectually, oh man, that thing about the causes. And then you realize, well, if I just stop the causes, that whole wheel grinds to a halt. Stop replanting the causes for suffering, and no more suffering can happen, however long it takes. So in stopping all suffering, two things must be stopped in order to stop all the causes for suffering. And those two things are called the gakcha. The gakcha means the thing emptiness is empty of. Oh, that's clear as mud. The thing that we deny, also clear as mud to me. The gakcha, a thing that it could exist independent of any other factor. That's too vague. Like, what do we really mean by the gakcha as it's revealed by this direct experience of the cessation of suffering? What has to be cessed? Is that a word? Ceased in order to stop perpetuating suffering. There's two versions of it. So we could say simply gakcha is a self-existent thing, a thing that could exist in it, from it, the same for everybody, unaffected by anything, which means it could never change, which means, where did it come from? Like, how could it be there one moment and not the next? Like, wait a minute. How can a thing that exists in it, from it, independent of any other factor, be such a thing and do the kinds of things that I see things do in my world? You know, something's wrong with this picture. Do I believe that things have their own identities? Yes, I have to admit I do. But then, do I believe that they're independent of any other factor and can't be affected by anything? No, I don't believe that. Well, which is it, Sarani? Do they have their identity in them, from them? Because if they do, right, they make them be what they are. Everybody'd have to see them the same way. And if they're not like that, well, then where do you think they come from? Right? And we go, oh, unique to me. I see them this way. You see them that way. Right? So what does that mean about the thing's own identity? Oh my gosh, right? It can't be in it. Well, maybe something in it, because everybody sees a stick. Really? Right? It'll take us through all the schools if we follow that train of thought. So these two gakchas, two flavors of the same gakcha, actually. There's a gakcha that stopped on the path of seeing. That's referring to the belief that the pen has its penness in it, made from a factory, all those ramifications. We have a belief that others have their identities. They don't have their own identities, but our belief that they do is so strong that it makes us interact with them with that belief, such that we plant the seed with that belief, such that we still see them that way every time we see. So it's not so much the things that we see differently. It's our belief in them having their own nature that is gone when you come out of your direct perception of emptiness, because you have directly perceived the fact that that belief has been in error since forever. And from that direct experience, you come back out and it's happening again. Oh, pen in it. And you go, so silly, right? That's impossible. Pens in them from them. Impossible. Never were. Gosh, I was fooled, right? For infinite eons. Silly me. I'm not fooled anymore, even though I see it that way still. So the first gaksha is this intellectual belief in the self-existent nature. Makes for the gaksha, the self-existent nature of the thing. But it's really the belief we're getting rid of. Because there's no self-existent nature to get rid of. It was never there. Belief was there. The belief is an existing thing, not self-existing. Then the second gaksha to be stopped is the gaksha that's stopped by reasoning. So it's not really the second gaksha, it's the first gaksha that we get rid of. As we're on our path of preparation and we're learning about self-existent things and how, absurd it is to think that they are, but how impossible it is to not think that they are, because our seeds are ripening that they are, and we still believe it. So to have this clear ability to reason through, if the pen had its own nature in it from it, what would be the ramification of that? We could think that through. It would say what it is. So everybody would see it the same way. It's so simple. Does everybody see this object the same way? Not even you and me don't see it the same way. Here, do you see it the same way as you saw it the first time today? No, this is the second time, third time, fourth time. Where we never see something the same way every time. The gaksha that we come to recognize by reasoning is, oh my gosh, that thing in it from it is just simply impossible. I still see it that way. I still react to it that way, but oh, stupid me, right? It's inconsistent with logic. The goodness of going through that logic to come to the conclusion, oh, not in it, from it, that's impossible. That's a great goodness. When we do it, colored with I'm doing this logic in order for all beings to benefit so I can become a Buddha so they can really benefit. Now those seeds of telling the pen thing to yourself, right, are really seeds for reaching it and then reaching your Buddhahood afterwards. Just tell yourself the pen thing over and over again. Imagine you're telling it to somebody else as you do it, and imagine that you're doing it so that both of you can become fully awakened angels someday soon. And the seeds we plant are directed towards growing the goodness to experience directly the truth of the end of suffering. Right? We have to clearly identify the gaksha in order to know what it is, has never been there, can't be there, is impossible to be there, because we're still seeing them everywhere. We think we're seeing them everywhere. We can't be seeing them everywhere because they don't exist. They are impossible. But it takes over and over and over and over and over again before we go, oh yeah, I get it. And then experiencing it directly before it's like, oh, I really get it. And then Lamden is the path to the end of that suffering. What we need to do now that we know what we know. And what is it that we do? Avoid harming others. Practice art, making goodness, doing both with the wish to reach total enlightenment for the sake of all beings, so that we are doing our 10 non-virtues, avoiding our 10 non-virtues, growing our 10 virtues, keeping our pratimoksha vows, whichever ones we have, living according to our bodhisattva vows, tantric vows if you have them, using your 6 perfections, your first 4 perfections, to grow your meditative depth, to grow the seeds to see emptiness directly again, which we'll do, and to move ourselves through those bodhisattva bhumi levels, perfecting giving, perfecting moral discipline, perfecting not getting angry, perfecting joyous effort, right? All contributing to the perfecting meditation, which we've already done, but we need to perpetuate, and perfecting our wisdom, which we've already done, but we're growing it into our omniscience. Not that vipassana becomes omniscience, but I think you understand. So I'm supposed to go into the 6 perfections. And I kind of have already. So to wrap it all up, to wrap up this whole course, hooray. The Lamrim is a teaching that's complete. It has all the steps for all 3 capacities, and it's told from the perspective of the highest capacity. So it technically is a Mahayana teaching, and it shows us that even if we stepped into this career as a Mahayanist, we need to look at our 1st and 2nd level capacity that's strong from past lives, but get it strong for this life as well, so that we can be using it to empower our 3rd capacity practice, to feed our goodness, to grow our depth of meditation, to grow our wisdom, to grow our goodness, to grow our wisdom, and push that upward spiral. Up, 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 up. Lamrim is there. We learn it well. We use it again and again. Even as we get to the highest Yoga Tantra coursework, we spent the first year doing Lamrim. Again, I don't know what Geshe-la has in mind. And partway through, we did it again. And at the very end, we did it again. So it's like Lamrim isn't something that's just a beginner teaching at all. It's our encyclopedia. It's our itinerary, our trip itinerary, right? Life's journey itinerary. So please learn it well, use it. All right. So congratulations except for the review. We've finished course 9. We are halfway through your whole ACI courses. That's fabulous, really. I think for at least one person, I think she's done. And that's really, really extraordinary. So not just for the goodness of this particular class, but for the whole course and all we've done together, right? We've been at this 2 years, right? So much goodness. Be happy with yourself. Think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Beyond exquisite. Recall your own precious holy being, that one so special for you. See how happy they are with you. Feel your devotion to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it, and they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everybody you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with happiness, filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom, and may it be so. So thank you, everyone. I look forward to you teaching me. Have fun. Have a nice weekend. I'll see you Sunday evening, my Sunday. Okay. Bye-bye. We'll miss you, Julia. Have a wonderful time.
Lama, could I ask a question?
You may.
Just now you mentioned in the during the death process that the brain shut down, and then even our feelings. Did you mention that the ability to think, right? The thoughts are gone. So I'm not very clear with this part about the mind. Like when we study, we learn about the mind has this main mind and the mental functions, right? The 51 mental functions. So which part gets on like to the bardos, and basically is more in terms of the what do we really take along, because all the hips are gone, right?
Right.
So then the brain shut down. Then what do we take along?
Yeah. So I don't know how to answer it in terms of the main mind and mental functions. I don't know how they use those terms. But this idea within what we would call main mind includes a sense of me in every seat, like the subject side. So there's an awareness, more like an awaring happening all the time. And within this awaring happening all the time, there's always a subject side of it, an object side of it, and an interaction between side of it. And we relate to that as subject side me, object side you or the pen, and the interaction we can, right, analyze. The interaction can be I see it, or I use it, or I feel it, or I have attachment to it, it's mine, all these different pieces of the interaction between. And that's where all those mental functions are happening in relation to the subject-object relationship going on. And as this human life, we're used to having an ability to, right, have some kind of sense of interacting with other. And as that breaks down, even the ability to distinguish color and form goes away. Feeling, it doesn't cease, but our like relationship to it is going away. But there are stages that we go through where as the physical body is breaking down, the experience of that is that the seed ripening is no longer ripening the earth element, which is the solidity factor. And so our ability to be aware of having a solid body goes away before we're dead in the dying process. And then the ripening of water element ceases. So the moisture, the fluidity, the coolness factor, that stops, that we don't have perception of it anymore because we've been projecting it all along and now we're not. And then fire element ceases when we have hallucinations that happen when those are ceasing. And there's still a sense of subject side. It's already not Misarani because the function of the brain has already broken down, but there's still a sense of subject side experiencing something, and it's unfamiliar. And because of the unfamiliarity, it's disturbing. And so typical is, although it's not Sarani dying disturbed, it's the awareing happening of things unfamiliar. The awareness itself is being chaotic. It's still seeds ripening. So it's like, are you having mental afflictions? Oh, now I'm experiencing fear. No, but is there disturbance of the subject side? Yes, because it's unfamiliar. It has no way to react. Like we expect, I can pick up this pen and move it, and it happens every single time. But if our mind is in such a place that something's happening and it can't react, it can't influence, it's like, yeah, you know. So I don't know how to describe that in terms of, do you still have your heaps? At what point does this heap go away, that heap go away? They do all stop being projected, but there's still awareing happening, right? Awareness is being ripened. But now what's ripening is dying seeds are ripening. And then finally, there's the last one from this life. And then the next one is Bardo. Then, does a Bardo being have heaps? What kind of heaps does a Bardo being have? I don't know. Yeah. But then that said, I don't know, long question. If you can't stay, don't stay. How do we help somebody who's going through that? If from their side, we don't even exist anymore already by the time they've gotten to the point where, right, their sensory perception can't connect. Like, how could we ever help anybody? And it's like we can make this mind-to-mind connection, apparently. You know, and now I'm thinking self-existently because they've got a mind and I've got a mind, and right, I can, through the power of my mind, my concentration, I can help them tether in some way or help them direct in some way. And it seems to be the case. And they even say that if you say their name out loud, their past name out loud, and you know, give them instructions, verbal instructions, even if it's not in their language, that they say their mind will hear and they will understand. But then what we think is happening can't be happening. For that to have the effect on the mind, something else is going on. Because it's not like we can make that person suddenly have their personality back and know English and know what the words mean. But it's happening vibrationally. And so it can have an impact on their mind, which is also, you know, just vibrations shape-shifting. And it comes with experience. So, you know, it is hard to work out with our intellectual minds to be able to say just exactly what's going on there. Try to work it out, but recognize it's like, it's not going to quite be like that. But when we try to work it out, it makes it less scary, right? Because if we're expecting to have those hallucinations from when the elements dissolve away, like, you know, you're dying in whatever capacity. And it's like, okay, I'm watching for that silvery mirage. You're like, and when I see it, I'm going to be happy to see it. We could go to the next one. Like, the whole process could be experienced entirely differently. And instead of it all being disconcerting and it can be, right, in my mental words, whoa, I'm on this, right? I'm going to use this, but it won't be in intellectual words, because by the time you go from one hallucination to the next, you are past, you don't have that brain functioning in that way, but your familiarity with the process will turn on and it won't be chaotic. It'll be, I want to say directed, but it won't be directed either. But it'll be useful instead of harmful. And we learn those, right? We learn that death process. We learned it in Lamrim. We learn it in Diamond Way again. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot to chew on.
Good.
Thank you so much. Thank you for.
Okay. Take care, my dears. See you Sunday, if not before. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, stop the recording.